Well, hello, this is Jeff Gaudiosi, and you're on misplaceddraws.com where music comes to life. My guest today is making his second trip to the site, and he has a fantastic new record out called Recovery. You
Mm.
probably know him best from his days with Danger Danger, but he's truly one of the world's great guitar players, and Recovery certainly proves that.
Oh
Please
man.
welcome Andy Timmons. Welcome, Andy.
Hey man, great to be back. Thanks for having me.
Oh, my pleasure.
I
And
was just
let's,
I was just admiring your space. So we are kindred spirits and
oh,
we
yes,
got
we
guitar
are.
junk everywhere. I like it.
Yeah, you can't see like behind me are all the amps and pedals and just all the
Hey,
things.
we can quit anytime, right?
Exactly.
It's not a problem. No problem.
Now,
Yeah.
but let's start from the beginning with this record. Who's your band
Yeah,
on?
yeah.
Who joined you on the record?
Okay, so this is basically an offshoot of the record I did with Josh Smith producing called Electric Truth. That was just born out of I called Josh one day out of the blue. I got his information, and was seeing him, on YouTube and became a fan. Just reached out, and we were having this really friendly chat. He said, "Man, you should come out and record at my studio." I'm like, most people go, "Yeah, let's get together, buddy."
Yeah.
But I could tell he's just kind of a no BS kind of guy, and I was like, "Man, that really sounds like a great idea." Because I was a fan of his playing, but I was also equally a fan of the bands that he would record with, the bands I always saw him playing with. There was a certain feel and a certain thing that I really resonated with. So it was exciting to me. I've got my own band, and they're irreplaceable for what we do. But I've always been happiest, going from Simon Phillips to Olivia Newton-John. I like doing different things because it pulls different things out of your playing. And so we agreed, yeah, let's do a record. And I thought, well, I'll write some stuff, and he wrote some stuff with me and for me, and it just was a really joyous time. And so that was the record that became Electric Truth,
Mhm.
with Lamar Carter on drums, Travis Carlton on bass, and Darren Johnson on keyboards. And fast forward to a couple years later, Josh is coming through town with Joe Bonamassa, and he's got this thing about he loves to find, the best barbecue places all over the country, and had seen this thing about this place in Fort Worth that's like out by where the junkyards are, and they're only open 2 days a week. So he's excited because he's coming to Dallas. He's going to get an Uber at 7 in the morning to drive out to this place because you got to sit in line. They open at 10, and then when things sell out, that's it. So you got to go early. So I said, dude, you're not going to take an Uber. I'm going to come pick you up. I'm going to come pick you up. We're going to get barbecue. Great. So I pick him up. Maybe it's like 7:30 in the morning. Sunday morning, we're driving out to Fort Worth. I had to pick him up in downtown Dallas. It's going to take us an hour to get there, whatever. Halfway there, we're just cruising along. There's nobody barely on the road, but there's this guy that comes up from behind us, decides he's missing his exit, pulls out in front of us, and I almost missed him, but I clipped his rear, left bumper, and we both cars can't drive. We're like on the side of the road. I'm like, great. Now, but my first thought was like, Josh, get an Uber. You got to get to the
You got to get the
barbecue place. I
barbecue.
really that was literally my first thought. It's like, and not that I just like crunched the front end of my car. I was more worried about his barbecue. But we're sort of waiting for the police, and the record comes, and uh, well, the happy PS, we're both fine.
Yeah.
The other guy was undocumented, uninsured,
Mhm.
but the police got him. He's whatever, not a big deal. Insurance covered everything, but we're fine. But the wife comes to pick us up, and we're like, well, the car just went to the auto repair place. Let's just go get the barbecue anyway. We did. So my wife drives us, and we get there in time. We had the barbecue. But as we're waiting for the record to come, I said, man, Josh, what do you think about making another record? And he goes, yeah, let's do it. So after a car wreck before barbecue is when the idea for Recovery, which is an appropriate title, was born. But he's been so busy. If you know about Josh, he's an incredible player in his own right. But he tours with Joe Bonamassa, and they are also producing a bunch of records, and they're doing such a service for the blues community because producing records for Larry McCray and Eric Gales Jr. and just some of the great guitar heroes we have in the blues rock world. But Josh, found some time for me. We recorded at the same studio, same band. It's kind of Electric Truth Part Two, but this one's a bit more. I decided not to cater as much to Josh's world. I just wrote the songs that I thought would be cool for the band, and it's a bit more rock. It's a bit more my fingerprints as opposed to heading a direction out of intentionally. This is
Yeah.
just let it happen, but with those players, and really proud of how it turned out, you know. So there we are. That's that. But that's the car wreck barbecue story of how the record started.
Well, and it's
Pretty
funny,
crazy.
just this past Saturday, I saw Josh and Lamar with Joe Bonamassa here in Connecticut, and
Oh,
watching the two of them play with Joe is always an amazing thing.
well, they're both just they're world class, you know. And Joe's a smart guy. You surround yourself with the best of the best. He's got Reese out there,
Mhm.
and yeah, it's just a joy to hear Joe. I mean, what a you know, one of the hardest working guys ever to pick up a guitar, and always incredible tone, great playing, great singing. So just yeah, what an amazing art. And but yeah, but Josh and Lamar out there making it happen. He's got a great band.
Yeah. And now you had mentioned, recovery and appropriate title for the record. And I think
Yeah,
when I look at instrumental records, I always look at kind of the themes that run through, whether it's the titles or the feel of the record. So
sure,
let's start with the title of recovery. I mean, it could mean a
sure,
million different
yeah.
things. What was in your head when you said,
And
that's
it
where I'm going with this record?
sure, and that the beauty of instrumental music is it can kind of mean a million things to
Mhm.
a million different people. Um, you know, and that's what I love about instrumental music. But recovery is it's obviously a multidimensional term, and it means a lot of things personally to me. So starting with, you know, if you think about substance with alcohol
Yeah.
or even pharmaceutical things that, you know, might be prescribed to you over time that become very addictive,
Mhm.
sometimes are very difficult to recover from. And all those things were issues for me at one time in my life.
Mhm.
I've been through cancer. I'm in 11 years in the clear cancer wise. But I think it's just recovery also means just healing. And I think that especially people that are of a more sensitive level or have empathic nature, you know, life is a little harder and they feel deeper highs and lows, and that's
Mhm.
certainly, you know, I would be included in that. But everybody in life, there's things every day that we're having to kind of negotiate and recover from, be it, you know, whatever's happening in the world. And certainly it's a heavy, busy time in this atmosphere we live in. So I do like the fact that it is about healing, and that refers specifically to my life in that, you know, music has always been that for me. It's always been kind of a healing thing, be it, you know, it can make you feel great and lift you up even when you're already doing great. And I love that about it. I used to put on the first Montrose record before every gig when I was growing up to get me pumped up. There's nothing better than that record, you know, or the deep emotional stuff, be it Jeff Beck or
Yeah.
Chopin, and things that can just touch your heart in a real special way. Or the Beatles for me has always been kind of
Yeah.
this big security blanket around my life. It's always been there. I've always gone to it, still do. And so when I'm writing music and especially also recording and performing, all that emotion and all the things that I've gotten from music throughout my life goes into it. If people, will say to me that they get certain emotional things from my music, I'm complimented and I'm honored by that. But I also understand it because it's coming directly from that place for me. You know, there's the more that I write, the more that I play, the less um, the less distance there is from me and the instrument and the music. It's just more of an extension. I'm not having to navigate
Mhm.
as with much difficulty in having that connection with the sound and the string and the emotional, you know, intention. I mean to make that sound high and mighty or overly
Yeah, I
analytical,
get
but
it. I get it.
it's just the truth.
Mhm.
It's how Jeff Beck kept getting better and better over the years. I'm not comparing myself to him, but he is a guiding light in the way that he kept evolving and he kept improving and he kept finding ways of expressing on the guitar that really hadn't been done in that way. And that's I think he scratched the surface, you know, of what's possible. And that's the beauty of the evolution. The electric guitar is a relatively young instrument, you know, really just coming to the fore in the 40s and 50s. So we're still finding things. I mean, the electrical part of it is part of the things that help get different sounds and finding ways of what is you want to express. You know, for me, it's the emotion of the touch of a single string, what that can do. But for some, it's creating soundscapes and
Mhm.
all these different ways of expression. So recovery, it's meant to feed into that and hopefully provide that atmosphere to help with healing for myself initially, but all, for other people to get the energy from tracks like Recovery or Between Brothers, or to feel what's going on, Where Did You Go, or Why Must It Be So, or Arizona Sunset, which is very much a tribute to my family. I grew up in Evansville, Indiana, but I was born in Scottsdale, Arizona. And so I have Arizona roots till I was 5 years old. My earliest memories are formed there.
Mm. Yeah, and it's funny. I always think that there are different types of instrumental records. And just a couple weeks ago, I had Bumblefoot on. We were talking about his
Oh,
record.
yeah.
And,
Yeah,
and
nice.
his record, kind of like what Paul Gilbert does, it's very lyrical. You can almost sing to the
Ah,
instrumental.
nice,
And
nice, nice.
you have others where you have that really technical shredding.
Yeah,
With
yeah.
Recovery and your records in general, I think
Mm.
there's a little of both of those kinds of things. I mean,
Right.
for instance, song Why Must It Be So, I think is one of the, I think it's probably my favorite song you've ever done. You
Thank
know,
you.
and
I'm proud of
again,
that one. Thank you.
it's that lyrical part. But for
Sure,
the
sure.
most part, I feel like your tracks are more compositions rather
Mm,
than songs. The structure, like something
mm.
like Elegy for Jeff,
Yeah,
seems almost classical in nature as opposed to a rock-based format.
yeah. That's a great observation. I appreciate that. There was a time, well, I was a classical major my first 2 years of college in Evansville, Indiana. Not out of I want to be a classical guitarist. It was out of wanting to keep mom happy and stay in school, and that's all I could find as a guitar major in my area. But it proved to be a wonderful experience because I got exposed to all this classical music that I hadn't experienced any outside of Warner Brothers cartoons.
Exactly.
Minute waltz,
Yeah.
that was my exposure. But I wasn't, if it wasn't,
Yeah.
distorted, guitar or jazz guitar, I wasn't that interested. But I did love the sound of the classical guitar and the repertoire and learning, Bach violin partias on the guitar. Um, but again, I was, Mike Stern and Pat Metheny and,
Mhm.
all the rock stuff, Steve Lukather, was what I was after at the time. But as you mature and your taste evolve, I started seeking out and very much got into Chopin in the last decade. And so there's a whole body of work that I've written called the Outlier Nocturnes, and very much inspired by my love of Chopin's nocturnes. Not that I write, as I don't know what's the word, complicated, and it's I'm writing shorter themes, but that draw very much from the emotion I get from those particular passages that Chopin wrote. And Elegy for Jeff is kind of an offshoot for that. It was written as a solo piece, but then Babko, who I used to work with Simon Phillips, really put some beautiful 70s ish, did a beautiful job, supporting what I had done. But there's a whole body of solo work. One song that's gotten some traction online is called "Here Lies the Heart,"
Mhm.
which I played a version of when I was on the Pedal Show with Dan and Nick, those guys, and I played this song. I was just demoing a sound with my Halo Keeley, this piece called "Here Lies the Heart," and I was just going to play half of it, and I look over and I see Dan just wrapped in what I was doing, so I kept going, and I finished the piece, and he was in tears, and we had to stop filming, and it was a very, very, very sweet moment because it had touched him. It was just the right music at the right
Yeah.
time, and it affected him. And but now that people that watch that episode, they call it, oh, that's the song that made Dan cry. Nobody knows that it's called "Here Lies the Heart."
Yeah.
But that type of writing, and it is, I guess, it's classical in some ways, the Romantic
Mhm.
era that Chopin wrote in. But I just think of it all as music. But it's like everything that I do, it comes from a lot of different places. I'm primarily a rock
Mhm.
guitar player, people would
Yeah.
probably call me, but it's hugely informed by all these other influences,
Mhm.
very non-rock, especially all that I got from jazz and how that influences my note choices and my melodic intention, because you have to navigate all these chord changes instead of here's shred and A, which is valid and it's a great thing
Mhm.
to be able to do. But the players that I was gravitating towards, when you think of the Lucathers and the Carltons and the Fords and Metheny's and all the jazz guys, Wes and Barney and Joe Pass, there's very much an intention to the line. There's an
Yeah.
arc to everything, and there's a pathway. And that's when I write and when I improvise. That's the guiding factor. It starts with great songs, meaning those songs I've learned from and
Mhm.
try to write. but also, each solo is a composition within itself, whether it's improvised or actually composed. It's the same intent. We're just trying to play or write what it is we want to hear.
Mhm.
What we would, I think as an improv can't speak today. As an improviser, I'm going to blame it on jet lag, but it's probably not jet lag. It's just I need another coffee. No, but your improvisation is the same as a composition, because it's just what would we really like to hear? What would turn us on the most, or be reflective of what we're feeling in the time. And so that's always the goal. And if I'm getting some of that into the recovery record, that's what I'm trying to do.
Now, you talk about jet lag. You just finished a pretty sold out tour of Italy. You're
Yeah,
heading
very
to
much so.
Asia in a couple weeks, and
Yep,
most of those
that's right.
shows are already sold out.
Yeah,
Do,
Japan is already sold out. It's crazy.
do you find that, this instrumental music that isn't necessarily of one genre
Yeah.
is better received in other parts of the world than it is here in the US?
Yeah. I don't know. That's a good question. I think there's fans for this music everywhere. We have just tended to tour outside the States just because there's been more opportunity and
Mhm.
offers to do so. For me, it's been the path of least resistance. I've never really had management or booking agents.
Mhm.
It's just people along the way that goes, "Why aren't you coming to Italy?" Well,
Yeah.
book me some shows. Okay. And that's who Riccardo Capelli is our
Yeah.
Italian promoter. He just started doing it back in the middle 2000s because, why wasn't Alan Holdsworth coming? Why hadn't Eric
Yeah.
Johnson been there? Scott Henderson. So he started just booking tours for these people. And so he's gotten very great at getting these grassroots kind of tours put together. And the same with all the Asian stuff. I've got a promoter that's based in Croatia, but has facilitated a bunch of tours to those Asian countries. But I've been going a lot to Asia since Danger Danger. We first
Yeah.
toured there in 1990, and so there's been growing fan bases everywhere. And what's really been rewarding is just to kind of see that I've very much kind of conducted my career on my own terms, meaning
Uh,
that after Danger Danger, I realized, oh, you know what? Being on a major label isn't necessarily the holy grail that we thought it was. It can be a nice thing, but you're a commodity, and it's a business, and it's a corporate thing. It had nothing to do with what I wanted to do with my life. I just wanted to be a better musician. I wanted to hopefully gain respect from my peers and my heroes, and continue to grow. And ever since then, what I've done, for better. I mean, I think some people get frustrated with me that I'm not always touring, but that's not necessarily a healthy lifestyle.
right.
I think that, with as I get old, I'm 61 now. Like I said, we had a fantastic time in Italy, and now we're going to Southeast Asia, and it's an honor,
Yeah.
to be able to go, and it's been really rewarding that, and I recognize each time I travel, there's more and more recognition of my work and just me in general with the guitar audiences, and it's because of all the presence on social media and YouTube, some of which I foster. I'm not a great self promoter, but a lot of it's just people that materials that other people are spreading and sharing my music, and so it's been a really kind of organic thing
Yeah.
over the years. I always say that YouTube, that's our MTV. Where we used to
Yeah.
have used to have to be on the radio. You used to have to be on MTV, but that, of course, I'm going back to ancient times. But when Danger Danger, that was very much
Mhm.
what was necessary. But now have something of merit to the machinations of a big company with money can get things to a higher level and have more fame and money. But it's never been about that for me. I'm happy that I figure out ways of making a living, and it's by doing a lot of different things, but it's all based on the music that I want to produce and that I want to do. And so I'm eternally thankful that there's enough people that care about it, that want to support it. And so I think that's all that any artist could ever hope for.
Mhm.
And so I'm just very, very grateful. And thank you, whoever's watching right now,
Mhm.
and thank you for doing the interview. This is all, part of what I get to keep doing what I do. And I'm loving it more now than ever. So, um, getting back to, touring versus actually recording and making music, I want to get out and do enough shows, stay out there. But, I'm also aware of there's a lot more music I want to be producing. And I think that in the long term is going to be more valuable.
Mhm. Well, we've been spending some time here with Andy Timmons. The record is called Recovery. It's just another great record in your arsenal.
Thank you.
Takes on a
Thanks, man.
lot of
Thank you.
styles, really shows off what you can do.
Yeah.
And Andy, best of luck with
Uh,
the record. Best of luck with the upcoming tour.
Thank you.
And can't wait to do this
Thank
again
you.
sometime.
Let's do it again, man. Thanks for spreading the word. I hope everybody digs recovery, you know.
Thanks a lot, man. Good
Thank you,
luck.
bud. Thanks, buddy.